Penelope has been putting out quite a number of very popular whiskeys even before they got bought by Ross and Squibb, aka MGP. Between the Rio, the Valencia, their Toasted line, and the Architect series, Penelope has built a pretty impressive brand, but they're not resting on their laurels. Pretty recently, they've put out a number of different things between private barrels that are typically around 9 years each, so you get a nice kind of pick version of Penelope. You've got the new Marshmallow Toasted, Havana, and today's topic, the Estate Collection. Now, what makes the Estate Collection interesting is that you're getting a 10-year-old single barrel. So we're getting a little more age, and some of these are monsters. But can they compare to some of the other 10-year products that are on the market, whether it is something that is a bit more hard to find and allocated, like the Michter's 10-year, or the Old Forester 1924, or all the way to our shelf-stable friend, Russell's Reserve 10-year. For this 2-Minute Tuesday, we're going to crack into this Penelope Estate and get some notes, and then down the line, we're going to see how they compare to these bad boys. Let's do it. All right, this bottle's fresh. I got to get it open up. I like the easy pull. Oh, good pop. It's going to pour, let it rest. All right, this bad boy's rested. Let's get into the review. Color on this thing, what you would kind of expect out of a 10-year MGP. Really nice kind of caramel color. It's got some pretty decent viscosity, just looking at the legs on the glass. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but it's coming down pretty good for me, so let's get in the nose. Oh yeah. Okay, so right away, I get a lot of the hallmarks of MGP that I personally love. There's this wonderful, kind of rich and more savory nose to it. It's not very berry forward, but you do get some really nice kind of light brown sugary sweetness, nice little spice, kind of pepperiness from the barrel char that's in there. But more importantly, what I'm getting out of this particular single barrel, and keep that in mind, these 10 years are single barrels, so they're all going to be a little different, is mix of a light nutty note with a really good kind of buttery popcorn thing going on. I hope that transfers to the palate. Okay, really nice kind of Kentucky hug as it's coming through here, but it's not ethanol forward. It's only 105 proof, so it's not going to really punch you in the face. It's kind of soft at the front of the palate. Like when you're first tasting it, it's not some big in-your-face flavor. Reminds me a little of what I experienced in the Maker's Mark Cellar Age, which is to say it has kind of the same profile the whole way through. It's a lovely little balance. There's this nice sweetness, kind of brown sugary from the oak. Definitely some nice oak influence, that 10-year. Lovely, lovely, lovely. That butteriness is coming through, and I like that a lot. It doesn't feel super oily and viscous in your mouth. It does feel slightly thinner, even though it's 105 proof, but the finish is still hanging on, which is really nice. And it's got that great, what I call the MGP pepper from the barrel spice and the barrel char that's in there. If you enjoy MGP, most of the time you're having something like 6 to 8 years. This is just a little extra complexity, a little extra intensity of the flavor. It drinks actually really mellow. It's not like in your face like some of the other monsters that can be out there, but most of MGP doesn't get super high in the proof, so it's just really nice. Overall score, I might appreciate this more than others would, just because I like a more relaxed pour that has just this nice, calm combination of flavors that I enjoy, and I like MGP quite a bit. So I'm going to give this a 78. I know you might be thinking like, that doesn't seem super high, but keep in mind, for something that's basically $100 or less, and some of these go for 150 to 200 on the secondary. It's 200 tends to be like the private estate picks that are by very big names. I think for a $100 bottle of a nice 10-year, where you're still fitting in that rule, that $10 a year, to have a really nice pour that is very crushable, that hangs in there, that's got a good, more kind of savory dark profile. It's not like a big in-your-face monster, but you could totally sip this and relax. This is not something that's going to overpower you on a hot summer day, something like that, and is way more shelf available than, say, these two, and cheaper. I would struggle not to want to have one of these continuously available to myself. Now, this has like all the hallmarks that I really enjoy about MGP. Just that kind of spicier finish, not like hot, but just that nice barrel influence. There's good oak, there's a little bit of sweetness that's a little darker, a little more on that savory side. It's not that big fruity kind of stuff that you get at some other distilleries, like your heritage distilleries. It's just a really nice, enjoyable pour. Where it might let you down is that you don't necessarily have, if you want a big, in-your-face kind of monster pour, this is not what that is. This is very, very crushable. I could see somebody going through a bottle of this very fast because it's not really lighting me up, but it's just really enjoyable. It lingers a lot longer than I would expect. I kind of like the finish to this just because it's just hanging in there. It's got this, keeps having that kind of like warm, lovely hug with that barrel spice and that little bit of oak. It's really, really good, man. This is really good. If you also want to keep that in mind, This was $79.99 retail or $76.99, but for basically sub $100 in Washington State after all your taxes. Our taxes suck. It costs a lot, but this is really, really good. I will say this. There was another proof point that was available in Washington at like 98 proof. I could not get that bottle so far. I'm hoping maybe some extras come around. I'll be able to grab that one too. Because I actually enjoy low proof pours every once in a while. I'm a huge fan of Michter's 10, which is like 93, 94. It's not a whole huge proofy monster. When they linger like this does, where I can still feel this, and I know it's not that fast because of the power of editing, but like the last sip I took is probably about a minute ago, and I can still feel it right in here, right? There's still that little bit of warmth. I still can kind of taste it a little bit. When a whiskey does that at $100 or less, I'm in. And my biggest comparator to this as far as the caliber of flavor for the price point would be something like Old Forester 1920. I think 1920 is one of like the best on-the-shelf monsters, maybe also rare breed depending on your personal profile, but for me it's Old Forester 1920. While this isn't as proofy, right, it's only 105, it's not the, what is that, like 116 or something like that the 1920 is. It just, for its price point, what you're getting, and the age, I think Penelope's really hit it out of the park with this particular one. But what I want to know in the comments down below is from you. Have you had a chance to try the Estate Collection or some of the higher age private barrels at the 9 and 10 years that are available? What did you think? I've had a private barrel at a share before I bought the Estate Collection and got lucky and found a private. And man, it was phenomenal whiskey, and it was going toe to toe with some very big boys like the Cellar Age 2024. We had a Russell's 15 and an Old Fitzgerald 19 that were all opened at this share, and it still was one of the things that I remember out of that share as being one of the better whiskeys I had for the night. So I think the fact that you can get a 10-year Penelope product, aka Ross and Squibb, aka MGP, right, because now they've been acquired, for a relatively good price on the shelf, and it still has phenomenal flavor, I feel like that's a big win. And while my score might not make you think like, well, if it's such a big win, wouldn't you score it higher? I try to be pretty objective about these things in the sense that like I think most whiskey people are going to look for some like big in-your-face monster when you start getting into those like 80s and 90s numbers. But if you like a mellow one and you prefer a mellow pour, you might like add some extra points as a buffer compared to what I'm rating this as. Where I think this could really kick it up and really go crazy is if one or two of the notes was a bit more in your face. And I think that's hard to do at the proof point. At only 105 proof, it's hard to get some of those like big, super punchy flavors. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I just wanted to, I guess, highlight that because there are other things that come from MGP that I have rated recently that are complete monsters, but they are at about a 10-point higher proof point. My example would be the Murray Hill Club Special Release. Now granted, that has some finishing, it's way older with a portion of the blend being like 17-year-old product, but this is really good whiskey. Really good. And at the price point for its age, I would struggle to pass one if I don't have one. And as I get through more and more of this one, because it's going to go to some shares, I'm going to try and replace it. There you go. So let me know in the comments down below. What are your thoughts? Have you had some? Do you like the Penelope line in general? I think compared to a lot of like the common stuff like the barrel strength and the toasted, this is a significantly better whiskey to drink. And I like those. I want to be very, very clear, but I think this is way better quality when it comes to the product. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you like reviews like this, I've got several others. And if you want to keep watching, consider subscribing. That's one of the best ways to help us small whiskey tube people. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching. And stay awesome.